The Guestbook. The first name I recognized in the guestbook belonged to a woman who had been missing for 11 years. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, a common name, nothing more. Then I saw her photograph, the same face, the same woman, the same person whose disappearance had once been featured on national television. And according to the guestbook line open in front of me, she had checked into the inn only 3 weeks earlier. That should have been impossible, but it was only the beginning. Because before I left that mountain village, I would find dozens of names belonging to the people who were supposed to be dead, and one blank page waiting for me, a page that already knew I was coming. My name is Daniel Mercer. In the autumn of 2022, I was working as a travel writer. Most of my assignments involved reviewing remote destinations that few tourists ever visited. Small villages, forgotten landmarks, places hidden away from modern life. The assignment that took me to the mountains of the northern Japan seemed ordinary enough. A publisher wanted to feature about disappearing rural communities. The village of Kamikuro had fewer than 50 residents. Most were elderly. The younger generation had long since moved away. The village was accessible only by a narrow road winding through dense cedar forest. It sounded perfect for the article. Quiet, historic, authentic. I arrived shortly before sunset. The mountains were already swallowed by fog. Rows of traditional wooden houses lined a single narrow street. No traffic, no tourist, no sound except the distant rushing of a river. The place felt strangely frozen in time, beautiful but unsettling, like somewhere people had forgotten to live. The village contained only one inn, a century old building standing beside the river. The owner introduced himself as a Mr. Hayashi, a polite man in his 70s, soft spoken, friendly, yet there was something nervous about him, something he seemed reluctant to discuss. While checking me in, he glanced repeatedly toward the large guest book sitting on the reception desk. The book looked ancient. Its leather cover was cracked with age, hundreds of pages filled with names and comments from travelers spanning decades. I reached for it casually. Mr. Hayashi immediately placed his hand on top of it. The moment was subtle but unmistakable. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he smiled, perhaps later. I remember finding that strange, but I didn't press the issue at that time. My room overlooked the river. The scenery was beautiful, towering trees, stone bridges, mist drifting through the valley. The kind of place people travel thousands of miles to experience. Yet after dark, the atmosphere changed completely. The village became silent, not quite silent. No television, no conversation, footsteps, nothing. By 9 o'clock, it felt as though every resident had disappeared. I stepped outside briefly to photograph the river. The streets were empty, every window dark, every curtain closed. The fog hung low between the buildings. Visibility dropped to less than 50 feet. As I prepared to return the inn, I noticed something odd. Someone was standing on the bridge, a lone figure, motionless, watching the water. The distance made details impossible to see. I assumed it was another resident, yet something about the posture bothered me. The figure never moved, not once. I watched for nearly a minute. No shift in weight, no head movement, nothing. Then the fog thickened and the figure vanished. Not walked away, vanished. One moment there, the next gone. I returned to the inn immediately. Around midnight, I woke to the sound of footsteps, slow footsteps crossing the hallway outside my room. The floorboards creaked softly. Someone walking from one end of the corridor to the other. the back again, then again. The pacing continued for nearly 20 minutes. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door. The hallway was empty, completely empty. The footsteps stopped the instant the door opened. The silence felt unnatural, like a conversation ending when someone enters the room. I checked both ends of the corridor. Nothing, no guest, no staff, no explanation. I returned to bed. But sleep never came easily after that, because just before dawn, I heard something else. Pages turning, dozens of pages rapidly, as though someone downstairs was frantically searching for a book. The sound continued until sunrise, and it seemed to be coming from the reception desk, where the guest book sat waiting for someone to read it, waiting for someone to discover what was hidden inside. The next morning, I convinced myself I would imagine most of it. The footsteps, the figure on the bridge, the sound of pages turning downstairs. I blamed the long drive, the unfamiliar surroundings, and a lack of sleep. That explanation lasted until breakfast. Mr. Hayashi was serving tea when I noticed a newspaper folded beside the reception desk. The front page featured a story about a hiker who had disappeared in the mountains 2 months earlier. His photograph caught my attention, not because of the article, because I recognized his face. I had seen him before in the guest book. The realization hit me immediately. The previous evening, while checking in, I had briefly glimpsed on one of the open pages before Mr. Hayashi closed the book. Just a second, maybe less, but long enough to remember the photograph attached beside a handwritten entry. The face was identical, the same man, the same smile, the same hiking jacket. A chill ran through me. I picked up the newspaper. The article described a university professor who vanished while exploring an old mountain trail near Kamiko. Search team found no trace of him. Nobody, no equipment, nothing. He had simply disappeared. I looked toward the guest book. It sat exactly where it had the previous day, silent, waiting. Mr. Hayashi noticed my attention. His expression darkened slightly, then he quietly moved the newspaper out of sight. Neither of us mentioned it. The opportunity came later that afternoon. Mr. Hayashi left the inn briefly to deliver supplies a neighboring house. The moment he disappeared down the road, I walked straight to the reception desk. The guest book felt surprisingly heavy. Its pages were thick and yellowed with age. Names stretched back decades, travelers from around the world, families, couples, backpackers. Nothing unusual at first. Then I reached a section near the middle, and everything changed. Each entry followed the same pattern: a name, a date, a small photograph, then a handwritten comment. The first strange entry belonged to a woman named Imi Takahashi. The date was 3 weeks earlier. The attached photograph showed the same missing woman I had recognized. Her comment read, "The village feels peaceful. I think I will stay another night." Simple, normal. Except according to official record, she had vanished 11 years ago. I turned another page, another familiar face, another missing person, then another, and another. My hands began shaking. The entries continued for page after page. People reported missing, people presumed dead, people whose disappearance remained unsolved. Yet, according to the guest book, they had all visited Kamikuro shortly before vanishing. Then I noticed something even stranger: the dates. They were not sequential. Some entries appeared years apart, others decades, yet the handwriting looked fresh, as though all the comments had been written recently. I flipped through dozens of pages, The pattern never changed. Missing person, missing person, missing person. Every single one connected to Kamikuru. Every single one ending with the same final sentence, sometimes worded differently, sometimes hidden within longer comments, but always carrying the same meaning. I think I will stay a little longer. A sound behind me nearly made me drop the book. A floorboard creaked. I spun around. The lobby was empty. Yet the sensation of being watched settled over me immediately. I was not alone. I knew it. The feeling lingered until I forced myself to continue reading. And that's when I found my name. At first, I thought it was impossible. The entry appeared near the back of the book. On one of the final pages, my photograph was attached beside it. The same author photo from my publisher's website. The same image used on magazine articles. Sometimes someone had printed it and pasted it into the guestbook. Beneath the photograph, Daniel Mercer, October 17, 2022, 3 days in the future. I stared at the date. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. Then I looked at the handwritten comment. The page was incomplete. Only sentence had been written. The river is beautiful at night. Nothing else. The remaining space was blank, waiting. As though the entry was not finished yet. As though someone expected me to complete it personally. The front door opened suddenly. I slammed the guest book shut. Mr. Hashi stepped inside carrying supplies. The moment he saw the book, his face went pale. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he quietly set the boxes down. You shouldn't read it. His voice sounded tired, not angry, defeated. Like someone repeating a warning that nobody ever listened to. What is this place? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked behind the desk and gently placed one hand on the guest book. The people in that book all made the same mistakes. What mistakes? His eyes met mine. They stayed. That evening, I demanded answer. Mr. Hashi finally agreed to talk, only after locking the inn's front door, only after drawing every curtain, only after ensuring nobody else could hear. Then he told me about the bridge and the people who stood there after dark. According to local stories, the village had once been longer, hundreds of residents, families, businesses, schools. The people began disappearing. Not many at first, one every few years, always visitors, never locals. The missing were usually last seen near the river, particularly near the old stone bridge. Witnesses occasionally reported seeing unfamiliar figures standing there late at night, silent figures watching the water. The deceptions were always similar. The figure looked like ordinary people, travelers, tourists, hikers. But nobody ever recognized them until afterward. When photographs appeared in newspaper, when missing person reports circulated, when it was already too late, I listened quietly, trying to decide whether the old man genuinely believed the story or whether decades of isolation had finally affected him. Then he said something that erased all doubt, something only he could have known. You saw someone on the bridge last night. I felt my stomach tighten. Mr. Hayashi nodded slowly. They saw you too. The room suddenly felt much colder. Outside, darkness settled across the valley. Fog drifted past the window, and somewhere beyond the river, a bell rang. One single note, deep, distant, ancient. Mr. Hayashi's expression changed immediately. The color drained from his face. He stood too abruptly that his chair nearly tripped over. Then he whispered four words I will never forget. They don't usually come early. A second bell echoed through the valley. Then a third. And from someone outside the inn came the sound of slow footsteps crossing the village. The footsteps continued outside, slow, steady, crossing the bridge one board at a time. Neither of us moved. Mr. Hayashi stood frozen near the window, listening. The sound seemed unnaturally clear. Each step echoed through the valley. One, two, three, closer, then silence. The footstep it stopped directly outside the inn. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then came a knock. Three soft taps against the front door. Not loud, not aggressive, polite. As though someone was requesting entry. My pulse weakened. The village had seemed completely deserted after dark. Who could possibly be visiting? Mr. Hayashi didn't move. His eyes remained fixed on the door. The knock came again. Three more taps, patient, expectant. Then a voice spoke, a woman's voice, gentle, calm. Is Daniel there? Every hair on my arms stood up. I had never introduced myself to anyone in the village except Mr. Hayashi. Nobody else should have known my name. The voice repeated the question. Is Daniel there? The old innkeeper closed his eyes briefly, then whispered, Don't answer. The woman remained outside for nearly 10 minutes, occasionally knocking, occasionally calling my name, always politely, always calmly, never raising her voice. Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she left. The footstep retreated toward the bridge. The valley fell silent once more. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, I asked the question that had been growing in my mind all day. Who was that? Mr. Hayashi looked exhausted. I don't know. Then how did she know my name? The old man didn't answer because he didn't need to. Both of us already knew the guest book. That night, I locked my room door, then pushed a chair against it, then spent hours staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. Around 2 in the morning, I heard the pages again, the sound that had awakened me the previous night. Pages turning rapidly down stairs, dozens, hundreds. The noise continued for nearly 15 minutes. Eventually, curiosity overcome fear. I opened my door quietly. The hallway was empty. The sound continued to low. I descended the staircase slowly, one step at a time. The reception area sat in darkness. Only moonlight illuminated the room. The guest book lay open on the desk. Its pages moved by themselves, flipping rapidly, as though invisible hands were searching for something, searching for a specific page, a specific name. Then the page stopped. The book settled, open, waiting. I approached carefully and looked down. The book had opened to my entry. The blank page was no longer blank. New writing covered the paper, fresh ink, still wet. My heart nearly stopped. The words appeared in my own handwriting, exactly my handwriting, not similar, identical. I knew every curve, every letter, every flaw. The entry had grown. Several new sentences filled the page, sentences describing events that had not happened yet. The bell rang 3 times. Someone came to the door. The bridge was empty when I looked outside. Everything was accurate, every detail. Then I reached the final line, the last sentence, the one that had not happened yet. Tomorrow night I crossed the bridge. I stared at the words, unable to breathe, unable to look away. Tomorrow night, not if, not maybe, tomorrow night. As though the decision had already been made, I left the inn at sunrise. My plan was simple: drive away, leave the village, forget everything. The car had other ideas. The engine would not start, battery failure, or at least that is what I assumed. A local mechanic explained it, then looked confused. There is nothing wrong with it. What do you mean? He shrugged. It should start. It didn't. Not once, not all day. I rented another vehicle from a nearby town. That one broke down halfway to Kamiko. The next morning, the rental company sent a replacement. The replacement never arrived. A landslide blocked the road. Every attempt to leave failed, each for a different reason, each increasingly difficult to explain. By the third day, I stopped trying. Part of me was terrified, another part had become obsessed. I needed answer. The following evening, I walked to the bridge alone. The fog hung low across the river. Moonlight reflected faintly on the water. The village behind me seemed deserted. Ahead lay only darkness. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then I saw them, figures standing on the opposite bank, dozens of them, motionless, watching. At first, they appeared as silhouettes. Gradually, details emerged faces, clothing, expression. My stomach tightened. I recognized them, not personally, from photographs, missing persons posters, newspaper articles, the guest book. Every figure belonged to someone whose name appeared inside, all standing together beside the river, all watching silently. One figure stepped forward, a woman, the same woman whose voice had called my name outside the inn. She smiled gently, not threatening, not hostile, almost welcoming. Then she spoke, "We thought you were not coming." The others nodded, not speaking, just watching, waiting, as though my arrival had been expected for years. I wanted to run. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered. What happened to you? The woman glanced toward the river, then toward the mountains beyond. Her smile faded. We stayed. The answer sent a chill through me because it was the same answer hidden throughout the guest book, the same phrase repeated by every victim. A bell rang somewhere in the fog, deep ancient. The figures turned toward the sound immediately, every face filled with anticipation, excitement, relief. Then I heard footsteps approaching from behind. Not one person, many, dozens, perhaps hundreds. I turned around. More figures emerged from the village, walking slowly toward the village, silent, expressionless. Residents, every resident of Kamikuro, including Mr. Hayashi. None looked surprised to see me there, almost as if they had known this moment would arrive. The old innkeeper met my eyes, and for the first time I understood something. He was not protecting visitor, he was waiting for replacement. The bell rang again, louder, closer. The river began moving strangely. The water rippled despite the absence of wind. Then shapes appeared beneath the surface, human shapes walking, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, moving slowly beneath the black water toward the bridge, toward us. The crowd around me watched in silence. Nobody seemed afraid, only expectant, as if train were arriving at a station, as if something had returned. Then I saw a familiar face beneath the water, my own, walking among the others, looking upward, looking directly at me, smiling. I don't remember what happened next. Fear finally overcame curiosity. I ran across the bridge, through the village, into the mountains. I ran until dawn, until exhaustion forced me to stop. When rescue workers found me the following afternoon, I was nearly unconscious. They assumed I had become lost during a hike. I never corrected them. I left Japan 2 days later, and for a while, life returned to normal, or at least it seemed to. Then the postcards began arriving, one every year, always in October, always without the written address. The photograph on the front never changes. The stone bridge, the river, the fog, the village, and on the back a single handwritten sentence: "Your room is ready." The handwriting matches my own. The latest postcard arrived last week. For the first time, something was different. There was a photograph attached, a recent photograph, color, high resolution, taken at night. The bridge stood empty. The river flowed quietly beneath it, nothing unusual until I zoomed in. Standing in the fog on the opposite bank was a lone figure, a man wearing my jacket, my watch, my face. He was smiling, and in one hand he held an older leather guestbook, open to the final page, my page. The page I never finished writing. At the bottom, beneath all the previous entries, a new sentence had appeared. A sentence I don't remember writing. A sentence dated 3 months from now. It reads: After all these 3 years, I finally decided to stay.